All set. Ready? Ready to start? Ready? Go. Ah, nothing is happening. That's a good start. That's a good start. Many times meditation is like that. Resting in the fact that nothing is happening. Just resting in the fact that we are simply there and there's nothing happening. And observing that sometimes the mind wants for something to happen, which it can only disturb your space. The mind gets very bored. There's nothing to do when nothing is happening. So the mind will not let you sit, just sit. But it will kind of try to sneak in and say, well, okay, I'm supposed to feel something now. Maybe I should feel more this or that. But I'm not experiencing anything. How come? And it goes on and on, nagging you. Yeah. So when nothing is happening, it's very good. And especially if you can rest and accept that and rest in that nothingness, perfect. Nothing better that you can do. I would like to hear from you guys. How did it go in this last 2 or 3 days? And if you had a chance to practice your anchors. Last time we looked at breath, right? Breathing. So we did, yes, we did grounding and breathing so far. This is our third session, is it? Or the fourth? The third, okay. The third one, yeah. Okay, so I'd like to hear from just a little bit, if you have something little to share. Sasha, maybe you want to say something? But wait.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Well, yeah? Okay. Well, I found the staying with the breathing a bit more easy than staying with the thoughts of past and future. And it's like very calming for me. So I liked it.
Good, nice.
Yeah.
But they're looking at the thought and define them if they were past or future. It was not really an anchor.
No. But it crossed my mind so now and then.
Yes.
And I think the staying with the breathing was for me like more smooth or
yes,
comforting. Yeah.
Yes.
Little less abrupt than thinking about thoughts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the idea is that let's suppose you are resting in your breathing, and then after a while a thought comes and you don't notice it, you go with the thought and you start traveling away from the breathing, away from the present moment. And then you notice, suddenly you go like, whoa, oh, I was lost. I was going to Kathmandu. So, so that was an opportunity right there to see, well, okay, what was this thought about? Oh yeah, I was planning, blah, 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 whatever, or I was remembering, blah, blah, blah. That's it. I was only related to that. And then you come back to the breathing. So one doesn't exclude the other. On the contrary, they complement each other. That thing to observe if the thought was about the past or the future is just a way to, in a way, cut that stream of thoughts in a deeper way by seeing it even more than just noticing, oh, I was thinking, okay, I was thinking, and what was I thinking? What was it about? Because through that observation, we start understanding and getting to know our egoic mind. Yeah, it's just like, not only I'm noticing, I'm thinking, I'm also noticing what are these thoughts, for example, what are the repetitive thought that comes back to me over and over again, you know? Oh, it can be anything, you know? Oh, I'm thinking about money a lot. Wow, I never realized that. Why is that? You know, or there is some issue here with money. There's something that is taking a lot of space in my egoic self. Or I'm thinking about people don't love me, you know? Wow, what is that about, you know? Whatever it is, doesn't matter. But it's just the way to get to know ourselves, or not ourselves, but our ego, our personality, you know? Because once we know it and we can see it well, then it's much easier. We know what we're dealing with. It's almost like we trace the perimeter of this personality slowly, and it comes to shape. It becomes something really obvious and solid. And then when it's really solid, we can just go like, oh, you know what? Take this thing and put it there because I don't need it right now. Yeah. But if it remains something, yeah, a concept, an idea, or an intellectual understanding, yes, there is an ego, it's not enough. It's like, okay, but what does it look like? What is it made of? What are his recurring thoughts? You know, what are his issues? Where are the hooks? Where it really, I notice it really hooks my attention, and it catches my attention. It keeps me trapped.
Yeah, that's true. That becomes very clear.
Yeah.
Then,
So
yeah.
that's slowly through observation that that comes. Yeah. So
Thank
yeah,
you.
wonderful. The breathing and this, they totally coexist, and they actually complete each other. Yeah. And one, obviously, in the breathing, you're in the present, you're connected to the body, and there is no mind. Yeah. This is clear. When there is no mind, we are present, or when we are present, there is no mind, no egoic mind. And vice versa. In the moment we move into the egoic mind, we're not present anymore. It's very clear cut. No confusion here, guys. So we move from one to the other, you know, the pendulum go from being present to not being present, to be in the mind and to be in no mind. Yeah, but thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Laia, how did it go for you?
For me, listen, I have a full house during those days. It's full of people here. So I use the breathing a lot to be, I mean, I use it during the day, during the regular timing.
Yeah.
And it was good to check that it really also works when you are doing normal things, you know, you're not on a meditating state, but I was very aware of the breathing many times.
Nice.
During the regular life, and it's really good to be present when doing, you know, I like it. I really use it actually this week.
Wonderful.
Yeah, that was good because this house is full of kids, so it was really good.
You could use some filling the center of the cyclone, as we call it.
So I was there, and I really felt grateful, you know, at many times because I was not stressed at all. So I really felt it really make me live the present very good. I really like it.
Wonderful.
Shastro.
That's a wonderful practice, huh?
Yeah.
Because because now it's a house full of kids, and tomorrow we'll be out in the world, you know, going shopping or walking around town or whatever, and we're going to be in places where there's a lot of people, there's a lot of happening, and it's a good practice to learn to move through the chaos, but from a still point. Yeah. Also, so that's a great practice in your own home with a lot of kids, you know, and tomorrow all of us will be in a much more stimulating environment with a lot of things going on. And our task is, okay, can I go back to that still point while I am in this environment that is bombarding me with stimulations? Can I remain in my center? So that is the practice also of mindfulness, in movement, in action, not only when we sit, but also in everyday's life, especially in everyday's life. And now we have a good example of even in our house, we might turn the TV on or read the paper and we are bombarded. I don't know where you are, but here right now I'm in Italy, and there's been like a thorough bombardment from the medias about the virus, carrying a lot of fear into people's mind, to the point that the whole population at a certain point was panicking, you know, it was just like. So again, can I stay in my center while all this is coming towards me from the outside? Or do I let that come in and flood me with fear and I'm lost? Yeah, so the choice is that. Or I hear, I see what is happening around me, but I am in my inner space, in my center, and I'm not affected so much. So my master Osho used to say, I want you to be in the world, but not of the world. I want you to live in the world, but not be part of it. In other words, you know, live life, live with people, live in the world, share who you are, share your love, share your compassion, your wisdom, whatever you have. But be very careful not to let the world come inside of you. You know, maintain that space clean and clear. So that's why what is happening now with the virus is a wonderful practice too. You know, how can I keep my inner space as clean and empty as possible? You know, it's my temple. It's a temple where I go and over back to it to rest and to replenish, to rejuvenate my energy. And from there, I can live a very spontaneous, loving, compassionate life. But if I'm flooded by the world and all the fear that the messages that are coming to me, and I let them come in, I have nothing to share except fear, probably. What am I going to share with people? I can only share what I feel. What I feel is fear because I let it come in. Well, that's it. That's my life. I can only share fear. I don't want that. I want to share myself. I want to share my true self, which is pretty much almost the opposite, actually, of fear. It's love. Love and fear are opposites. Yeah, the opposite of love is not hate, it's fear. So in the moment I practice mindfulness, I practice presence, I can rest more and more in a space of love, even when around me there is fear. Or I can rest in a sense of peace, even when around me there is a lot of chaos. Yeah, this is very much why we sit, why we practice mindfulness. Because if we wait for the world to be a perfect place and all in harmony, and only then we'll be happy and in peace, forget it. It's never going to happen. Yeah, it's an idea. It's an utopia. Utopia means something that will never happen. It's a nice idea, but it's never going to happen. So this idea that we have, oh, a perfect world is an utopia. The perfect world is in this moment inside of us. That's where the perfect world is. And so that's where our energy has to go, our attention, in that precious garden inside, and take care of it. We are the gardeners. We have to take care of the little seeds that have been put there, the little flowers that are coming up. And don't let anybody come in with big boots and step all over your flowers. Yeah, we are the caretaker of that space. Very important. Well, okay, I like what I said. Thank you for the sharing, though, very much. I like the kid story very much. KK, you want to say something?
Well, I don't really have anything to bring out. I just try to be mindful the full day and be in the present and listen to what reactions I get inside.
Yeah, nice.
Whichever action I take.
Yeah, that's exactly what we do. Watching what am I feeling and why am I feeling this, you know? Because the inside, it's a constant changing of the landscape. Yeah, it's not fixed. The present moment itself, it's ever changing. That's a beautiful thing. It's an ever-changing landscape, a beautiful journey that unfolds moment by moment by moment into eternity. So it's a strange, beautiful phenomenon. And so to learn to observe how, a thought affects me, my own thoughts, or how something that somebody says affect me, you know, this is very important. And then as we develop that capacity, we're able to see more subtler and subtler things. Then we notice not only thought and emotion, we start noticing things that are more subtle, like moods, something that is almost undefinable, but I feel this morning I got up and I don't know, I have this kind of an odd, strange mood, and we start noticing that. This is a little melancholic feeling. What is that, you know? Very faint, but I feel it. So slowly, we refine that capacity to feel and to notice inside what is happening. We get to know each other more and more. And we develop what we call the observer through that, the witnessing consciousness, which is what we are. It gets, through the practice, it gets more and more crystallized. It becomes more present. It's not something, suddenly it's not something, an idea, but it's like, oh no, yeah, I know where it is, you know? Here is my mind, here is the observer. Yeah, here is this emotion that is being triggered, and here is me observing it. Here is my mind running, and here is my center, which is in the present moment. So all that with time and with practice, we start crystallizing that more and more. It becomes more and more clear, the separation, which is what brings a lot of freedom. So good job. That's exactly it, KK. Observing what's happening and why. Thank you. Peter, are you gone in Samadhi, or you want to share something? Hold on. Where did he go? Oops, I lost him.
Does it work?
Yes.
I tried the breathing, but I could only do it up until about 5 seconds. I need to, or 5 breaths in and out, and then restart it so I stay present. Otherwise, if I already go to 10, I'm pretty much gone around 7 or 8. And this was the first thing. And the other thing is I've been playing a lot of piano. I was just thinking about what you said, that actually when you're playing, if you're playing your own thing, so it's not something learned, you can be really present, but then you make a mistake and you're suddenly like, your conscious mind is like, that doesn't sound right. Back again, back and forth. And that's a trip. I really enjoy that feeling of making music and that sort of internal dialogue. I think that's very cool.
Yeah. So when you said you would stay with a few breaths and then you were gone, you mean gone where?
So if I need to count the breaths in and out, and if I get to about 5 and I restart, then I'm always in the present moment. But if I already start counting up to 10, around 7 or 8, I start thinking about other things, and then
interesting. Okay.
The breath,
Yeah, that's a technique to really ground yourself in the breathing when it's very difficult. You can count. It's like counting sheep when you want to fall asleep. So you can count 1 in breath, out breath, 2 in breath, out breath. Or you can start from 10 and go backward, or from 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, if it's really difficult, you can try that too. Sometime in the night, if you can't fall asleep, you can try that. But, you know, Peter, we are also playing with different anchors, different methods. Right now, we're just exploring. And it doesn't mean that all the methods work for everybody. So for you, for example, what you describe is great. For you, it was like, maybe, tell me if I'm wrong, but it was easier while you were playing the piano to be mindful of your fingers, how they were touching the keyboard, the sound that was coming out, yeah, that you could be present with that. That is mindfulness. That is being present. Your analytic mind was not working that moment. Your sensorial mind was working, right? Your body, your awareness of the body. So you were in the present. And then you make a mistake and you go like, oh, damn, you know, you shouldn't make that mistake, or that's horrible. And then you notice, oh, look at that. My thinking mind is back. My egoic mind is criticizing me for making a mistake. Beautiful. That is also mindfulness. So we can practice in many ways. It doesn't matter if we're in movement, if we're still sitting, or if we're be aware of the breath, or we're aware that we're playing piano. It doesn't matter. So whatever works for you, easy is right. You know, whatever works for you, it's the right thing. We experiment with a few. We have a few days here playing around. We're playing around together. I'm introduce you to a few things. And then you figure it out by yourself, what works for you. And everybody has to find his own path, because every path is different, absolutely different, completely different. And it evolves through time, you know. Everybody finds, oh, I go here now. Oh, no, this is easier for me. Oh, this makes me feel more present, whatever, you know. And everybody finds his way. Yeah. Great. Thanks for sharing that. Anybody else wants to share something? Yeah.
So hello, everyone.
Hello.
I don't know how relevant it is. It's just an observation in myself.
Then it's very relevant.
Yeah, I hope so. So I just noticed that the more I practice awareness, the more I meditate, I become more sensitive, not just to stuff that's happening inside me, but also to things around me. So I notice that when I go outside, I get this immediate tension in my jaw. Like, you know, I don't know whether it's, it feels like it has to do with fear and tension that is happening around. And the other thing that I notice is that I am more aware of my dreams. I remember my dreams the more I meditate. And equally my dreams, I don't know whether my dreams are like that all the time, but when I meditate and I notice them, they are more felt. My dreams, they're more kind of like an experience, like I have sensation in my dreams, body sensation, sounds. Like 2 days ago, since we're going to work with sound, in my dream there was this kind of like such an intense sound that I thought it was like a ee sound, and I had to wake up because I thought I was going to go deaf or something, and I could still hear the sound in my ears. And it felt like my body had a lot of weight. Anyway, I don't want to get esoteric here, but I noticed that stuff happens a lot inside, and also I become sensitive to a lot of different stimuli when I the more I observe.
Yeah, very true. Yes, we do become more and more sensitive, absolutely, because what make us dull, if we could say that, or make us less sensitive, is the overstimulation. You know, you can see that in many scenarios, different scenarios, where when there is a lot of stimulations, a part of you goes blank because you cannot even process that much. Yeah. So even the brain, the whole thing goes like boof. I spent many years in India, and there is such a concentration of people there. You know, anywhere you go, on the street, the way you walk in, I mean, everybody's really like touching each other, like shoulder to shoulder, almost in many situations. And when you arrive from the West, you feel like culture shock, and you go like, oh my God, that's a lot of people, you know, and I don't know if I can handle it. And then, you know, after a few weeks or a few months that you live there, you don't even notice it anymore. But I also noticed that what happens is that I become less sensitive. My whole body becomes less sensitive. So it's a way that the whole organism cope with things, you know, with that amount of stimuli. And vice versa. The more we rest in a space that has no stimulation at all, where nothing's happening, as we were saying in the beginning, and it's just like resting into this space, we open up more and more, you know. So all our antenna come back out, and they go like dee, 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 dee. They come out like little flowers, and we become more sensitive because we can feel more, which is a beautiful thing. It means we are more alive. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing, nothing to be afraid of. Our practice is to be able to leave our antennas out, but also when it's necessary, pull them in. Yeah, so we don't have to start grinding our teeth or react or find way to somatize what's happening, because before that happens, we just pull the antenna a little in. If we feel, okay, this is too much stimuli coming from the outside, we pull them a little in. And then when I feel like, okay, this is a place that is safe and I can let them completely out, I let them out again. And Yeah, so we were talking about before finding the center of the hurricane when we're out in the world and the world is like a whirlwind spinning of chaos, finding, come back to the center. That's also a way to say pull in the antennas, come back to the center more and move through that, moves through space from the center. I often do it when I go like even shopping to the supermarket and there's a lot of people and a lot of product. And if we just keep taking in, after half an hour, you're exhausted, Sometimes you come out of this shopping mall or a supermarket and you feel like, oh my God, I'm so tired. That because your energy is going out. Vice versa, when I move through this kind of environment from my center, being aware of what's happening outside, but also being aware of this still place inside, the center of the hurricane, I don't get tired at all. If anything, I have more energy afterwards. So that's also part of our practice, and thank you for bringing that up. Yeah. Nice. Okay, so if nobody wants to share something else, we move on. Today, anchors, we talk about how to use the sense of hearing as an anchor into the present moment. I don't know if you notice, but all the anchors we work so far were somehow related to the body, to the perception through the body. This is a little bit, I was just talking to Ajija the other day, and she was like, well, how would you define your teaching? How your teaching is different from somebody else? I said, I don't know, is it different? I don't even know if it's different. And then while I was saying that, I was like, well, okay. If I had to find the definition, I would say there are very tantric roots in my understanding of meditation. Tantric, what does it mean? Tantric means the world of form is not denied in any way. The physical body is neither denied, not repressed. The senses are not repressed, This is what many religions and many spiritual movements have been doing. As we were saying the other day, I think we were talking about the body and how the body has been looked at as something either dirty or something that is not really you're more than your body, or whatever concept they put on top of that. The tantric approach is like everything, the form and the formless, everything is sacred, There's no way, existence would create this if there is anything wrong in it. The simple fact that it exists, it means it's part of the divine plan, right? So the body and the senses are absolutely, for me, an incredible anchor and a portal and a doorway into the inner world as well. So the senses are used mainly and originally to perceive the outer world, right? They're like windows into the world of forms that is around us. Yeah. So we could say they are a door to go into that in perceiving that. But from a door, I can go from inside to the outside, right? So I perceive what's happening on the outside. I can also stop and turn around and go in the other direction. Yeah. A door is an opening. You can go both ways. So in a way, we're actually using the senses to bring more presence, more attention to the present moment, And that in the moment we use this sense, any sense, with totality, with a lot of attention, bringing a lot of our energy there, that energy not only goes out, but it also turns around and goes in. That's a beautiful, magical thing that happens. So you can also try this. Osho gave me this practice one time. It was like, sit and look at a rose flower or any flower or a tree, you know, but put all your attention into looking and just look without letting your analytical mind coming in. Just look, simply looking, not even thinking the word tree or not even thinking about the word rose or flower. Just look. What is this thing that you're perceiving? And let yourself rest in that pure looking. And then he said, you will notice that as you look at the rose flower and you're completely there with the rose flower, you will be able also to perceive yourself almost as if the rose is looking at you as well, which is a very poetic way to describe it. But really what happens is that the energy goes out and also comes back in. So if you practice that, you're able to see, oh, I'm aware of what I'm seeing. And at the same time, I'm aware of myself that is looking. So it's like a double-pointed arrow. And to me, in my personal practice in this life has been very, very precious and important to learn about this, because God knows if I needed anchors like everybody, I needed ways to become more present through the embodiment of this form. So we practice with the listening. And the beautiful thing is that when we close our eyes, the listening becomes much more dominant. Yeah. Usually in daily life, 75 to 80%, which is a lot, of the energy goes out through the eyes. The eyes is the most dominant of the senses, and at least in modern man, in this historic time. And it's a lot, 75 to 80. This is what the scientists are saying. I'm not making it up. But if you think we have 5 senses and only one takes almost 80%, that's very dominant, right? So the second most dominant is the hearing. So in the moment we close our eyes, all this energy stops going out, stops going into the looking, and it goes inside, which is perfect. That's what we want. And a lot goes into the hearing, or very easily goes into the hearing. So we can easily move into the listening of the sounds. As with anything, when we put our attention on that, you know, that becomes stronger, because our attention or awareness is food for anything. In other words, wherever we put our attention, that thing grows. So if I put my attention on thinking, the thinking goes and goes and goes and goes, you know. And if I put my attention on the breath, we were saying that last time, I think, I noticed without doing anything, just putting my attention, in the moment I do that, the breath starts becoming longer and deeper, and it starts relaxing by itself, right? That's because I'm nourishing, I'm feeding the breath through my attention. Yeah. And so when we put our attention on sounds, suddenly they become very present. All the sounds become very present. And they, after a while, they start acquiring a very magical, almost flavor to them. And it's almost like I'm listening to the symphony of existence suddenly, you know, every sound is in the perfect place. Wow, listen to this. And it can be anything, yeah? It can be a car passing by, it can be a dog barking, it can be a hammer beating on a nail or hitting on a nail or anything. It can be music, it can be sound of nature, of course. That's the easiest. If you want to practice over and over this technique, this anchor, do it in nature when you can. And that is the easiest because the sound of nature are the most soothing. But the more you practice, the more you realize, well, it doesn't really matter what you listen to, but how you listen. Yeah. So maybe you start with sounds that are not too disturbing, at least for the mind. And then you move on, and then you go to the fruit market, and you listen to the sounds there. You know, you wherever you are, you can practice this meditation during the day in any place. Actually, it doesn't matter what you listen to, but the fact that you're completely and totally listening will create a complete stillness inside of you. Because the energy that goes into thinking, it's the same energy that suddenly we take it and we redirect it towards listening. It's the same energy. There's not two different energies. It's only one energy that does everything, that perceives everything. Yeah. So in the moment we put all our attention in listening, the mind becomes very quiet. It stops. How beautiful is that? We found another pause button. Yeah. So we just do that. And one more thing we do is we do not judge or label any sound that we perceive. Much like when we look at the thoughts, you know, we said choiceless awareness, like make sure you don't start judging, oh, this is a good, nice thought. This I don't like it. I should even think about that, you know. There, it's the mind that comes back in, the analytical mind that starts dividing in many little boxes. This is nice, this is ugly, this is good, this is right. Dualities. It's the world of dualities that comes back in. Don't fall in that trap. It's just the thinking mind coming back from the back door. Listen to sounds without any preference, okay? All sounds are equals. All sounds are just what they are. Mm-hmm. And if you can stay with that non-judgmental attitude, sounds become amazing. All sounds. Even a dog barking suddenly is like, wow, that's beautiful. Look at him, hear him, feeling his energy through the barking. What is he doing? You perceive the dogginess in that moment, what it's like to be a dog. You see through and through things. Or you hear a train, you know, whistling and passing in the distance. You're like, wow, that sounds so magical. It's just a train. Yeah, I know. The mind says it's just a train. But in this moment, because I'm completely empty, everything sounds, in a way, magical. So it's a very powerful method, anchor. I'm very happy to pass it on to you. Much like between two thoughts, there is a space. Between two sounds, there is silence. Right? And not only between two sounds, but also underneath the sounds. Silence is very much like the blank canvas, and sounds are like the brush strokes. Silence is always there. It's like, it's because of silence that you can actually perceive the sounds. So I would like you to become aware of both things, There are sounds and there is silence too. There is silence between sounds. There is silence even underneath all sounds while they're happening. And I'll make a little example for you that is easy to understand. If I take you inside a room, okay, and I ask you, what do you see inside this room? You'll go like, well, I see a piano, a table, a chair, and a person sitting on the chair. So good. Then I'll ask you to walk out. I take all the furniture out, including the person, and I ask you to come back into the room. And I ask you, what are you seeing? And you go like, what? Nothing. I said, nothing. I said, well, there's the space. Ah, okay, there is space. And then I ask you, well, was that space there before? Obviously it was there, because it's not that I took the furniture out and I put the space in the room, right? The space was there, but it was occupied by object. And because our mind sees object, because itself is an object, it doesn't see space, it sees object first. So our attention goes to object first. So we don't realize, oh, but there is space there. There is space between this chair and that chair. And there is space also where the chair is. The chair is in space, it's taking space. Space is already there. So I'm making this example because that's for the eyes. Space is for the eyes. What silence is for the ears. In the same way, sounds are there, but there is silence also underneath. When I stop, you hear the sound of my voice, and when I start talking, there is silence. But that silence is there also when I'm talking. If I make a sound, and if I was an instrument like a bell, I would be like, so the sound arises out of silence. It exists with silence underneath, and then it disappears. It fades back into silence, right? And silence is there at all time. So now you start wondering, where is he going with this? Why is this space and silence so important? Because it's part of our practice to become more aware as well of the formless. When I ask you feel the space inside, or I say move towards your center, I'm talking about the formless. There's not a physical center that you can say, oh yeah, this is my center. There's not a space inside that you can say that it's defined, yeah, like a room. No. Consciousness is formless. So the practice of meditation, it's also about not only become aware of form, but of the formless too. Because consciousness, which our nature itself is formless. So it's familiarizing ourselves with the world of formless. So space and silence are expression of that. Space and silence are also two doorways through which I can access consciousness. Or there are two facets of consciousness. That's why I was underlining why is it important. Listen to sounds, but also to silence. Sounds in itself are already quite etheric, yeah? They're just vibrations. They're not quite solid object, much like the breath. Yeah. And silence, it's even thinner than that. Silence is like undefinable. That's what we like. Lao Tzu used to say, that which is definable is not the Tao. The Tao cannot be defined, it cannot be expressed. It's undefinable, unexpressible. Yeah. So when we listen to silence, we are listening to the Tao. We're listening to existence whispering to us. Thousands silent words. And so when we are very quiet and we listen attentively, we listen to the sound and we listen to the silence, we also become aware of the silence inside. And you might perceive that is the silent inside of you that is actually hearing and perceiving the sounds. We'll talk about it a little bit later after the meditation. So we just start by finding a comfortable place to sit. If you can, to sit with your back erect, but not stiff, relaxed. Yeah? You have to be comfortable and relaxed. Whatever makes you comfortable. And with an erect spine, if you can, so you don't fall asleep easily. You stay more present. And when you're ready, you close your eyes. And we bring the energy inward. A quick scan of the body, make sure there's no tensions that is still there. If you find it, if you feel it, just release it. Becoming aware of the weight of the body on the cushion or on the couch or on the chair. And let yourself sink into that feeling of weight. Let yourself be heavy, connecting with the earth, relaxing. And you might feel like the more you relax, the more you let go, the heavier you become, the more you connect with that earth energy, or your body does. Let that happen. Let yourself sink down. And we also bring our attention now to the sounds that are coming towards you. The sound of my voice. Or maybe there are more distant little sounds, more faint in the background. Maybe the sound of your breath as it goes in and out of the nostrils. And also becoming aware of the silence between my words. The silence that happens between sounds, but also underneath all sounds. And noticing how the more attentively we listen, the more quiet we become. Noticing how when you listen to silence, you also become silent. As if your inner silence resonates with the outer silence, and vice versa. Maintaining attention to listening. And if you find yourself drifting away in thoughts, you just notice that. And without any judgment, come back. Bring your attention back to listening, to the silence, and to any sounds that you're able to perceive. when there are no perceived sounds, rest your attention on the silence. Becoming aware of the outer sound, of the outer silence, and the inner silence. Becoming aware of how everything that is perceived in this inner silence. The outer sounds and the outer silence are both perceived in the inner silence. And slowly coming back when you're ready. You can gently open your eyes. Let's see if you have something to share about this experience. Did it help? Was it helpful to tune into the sounds? Sasha.
Yeah. For me, it was as if the silence has its own sound, and it was at a point so overwhelming that I have to a little bit open my eyes to let outside come in. And it was like it added to the groundness and the weight. So for me it was like
Down to the earth.
Yeah, very much. Yeah.
So it made you feel very rooted and present.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Laya? Yeah. How was it?
I have a lot of noises here because I have a lot of noises outside the house of people, of things moving.
Good.
Of items, of people running upstairs. I hear them running.
Yes.
So I try to concentrate in some of them because I have a lot of noises here around. So, but I felt a lot of energy suddenly. You know, like I had bites. I have little moments of a lot of you know, that I was really centered.
Yes.
And really focused on the whole thing. You know, I was very aware, and I was full of energy. And then suddenly it went out, and then again. So I try to focus also on some birds. I listen to some birds that are very far away.
Yeah.
But I think nature sounds are much more peaceful, no?
They're easier in the beginning. They're easier to listen to.
Yeah.
Because we don't usually have any judgment or preconceived ideas on nature sounds. But anything that is man-created, we usually comes with a certain energy, and we feel it, and then we either like it or dislike it, judge it, or so it's a little more difficult to remain impartial to all sounds, as we were saying. And with nature sound is much easier. Yeah, that's why I said it's a good place to start with nature sounds. But as your practice deepens, the listening practice deepens, then you can move to any sound. It doesn't matter what sound. There's a beautiful poem by Rumi, the mystic poet Rumi, and he said, "When I'm silent, I fall into the space where everything is music." Yeah, it's just that what I was talking about. When I'm really silenced, and suddenly every sound, it becomes musical almost. It has its own quality, its own music to it, musicality. Yeah, it's like that. So when you start hearing that the sound have that quality, you know, you enter your center. You went through the door. Yeah. Nice. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else wants to share something?
Yeah, I want to say something, Shastro.
Yeah.
Well, here where I live, there is a lot of silence around. There is no noise, so it's been really quite a beautiful experience, because I'm very much used to ground myself and really connect to the breath, and now intentionally to move towards the listening. There was an incredible space, really spaciousness, very, very large. And then I heard your birth time and some chimbals. And that sound was, I don't know even how to put into a word. It was something that was creating, giving that space of silence even a depth. So yeah. Great experience.
Yeah, that's very true what you said. That the sound enhances the silence.
Yeah.
And the silence enhances the sounds.
Yeah.
And it goes both ways. So that's why when we're really silent inside, we can hear a lot. For example, I might be thinking about whatever, it's a very busy mind today, and I'm sitting and I'm thinking. And then I notice, I'm thinking, and I stop. And suddenly I notice, these birds, I didn't even hear them before in the background. Suddenly I hear them because I became silent, right? So it's the silence that perceives the sounds. My own silence is perceiving the outer sounds. And the more silent I have, the more I can hear. Yeah. And in the same way, for the outer sounds, the outer silence is the outer silence that allows me to hear defined sounds. Let me make an example with a visual again. It's a little easier. You walk out tonight and there is, wow, it's crystal clear, starry night, one of those glorious, beautiful nights. And you look at the stars and the planets and the moon, beautiful. And that's what you see. But it's because there is blackness around, there's this space that I can see the stars, right? It's the lack of light that creates the black that allow me to see the stars and the planets and the moon. If I stay long enough and the sun starts rising and there is light, I cannot see the stars anymore, but they're still there, right? But there's no darkness that allows me to see them. So it's the same with the silence on the outside. The silence is always there. But when we become silent as well, suddenly all the sounds appear on the canvas of the outer sounds and the inner silence. Sorry, the outer silence and the inner silence. And going back to the starry night, it's always a mind-blowing experience to look at such a beautiful starry night. But if you try tonight or whenever you can, if you not only look at the stars, but it's when you look into the blackness and you feel how immense that is, space that is endless and infinite. When you enter in the perception of the space, that's when your mind really is blown away. Yeah, that's even deeper, because it's infinite. So in a way, Sounds also are beautiful, but it's the silence that takes us even deeper than that. The formless, because it resonates with our own true self, which is also formless. It becomes a mindless and no mind experience.
But that's exactly the experience I had by listening to the sounds that you were producing. There was this endless space of silence. That's what I did perceive.
Exactly.
That was an amazing experience for me. So
yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Okay. So practice this in the next couple of days. Even if you're sitting, but even if you're doing things, you can still bring that attention to outer sounds. Maybe if you're moving, bring your attention to outer sounds, and in that moment also bring your attention to the inner silence. While you're washing dishes, listen to the sound of the water running beautifully. Just bring your attention there, be present with that, and then switch. Go the other way and notice the silence inside of you that is perceiving that sound. Like we said, like with the rose and the observer and the observed. First, bring the attention to the object. Help the object ground you into the present moment. And then turn around. It's a double-pointed arrow. Every sense goes both ways. Then turn around and go in. Notice it while you listen to the sound. Notice the silence inside. What is perceiving that sound inside? It's your silence, you will see. Play with that. Have fun with that. And you tell me in a few days when we meet again how it went. All right. Lovely, lovely to be here with you guys. Thank you for allowing me to share